Welcome to the Spark by Hollywood podcast. This podcast is all about shining the unique spark beyond the typical and traditional Hollywood love. I'm super excited about today's episode as we delve even deeper into the paradigm of Hollywood culture of love, relationships, empowerment, and entertainment. Today, we are joined by a Jewish singer, songwriter, and may I add, superstar, Mr. Abie Rotenberg. Mr. Abie Rotenberg, thank you for joining and welcome.
Okay, thank you very much. Superstar, okay.
Yeah.
I can live with that, I guess.
Fantastic. I'm happy. So as you know, Abie, we as a society are all familiar and obsessed with Hollywood, right? We watch their movies, we watch their shows. We become quite enamored with the daily lives of the actors and celebrities as well. And the media also loves to give us that constant paparazzi into their lives, their relationships, their dynamics, and their families. And because these celebrities are always in the limelight, we follow them. Sometimes we emulate them, all the while thinking that their model of lifestyle, their type of entertainment, their messaging that they broadcast in their music and their movies, that's where it's at. And then we start to see ourselves in what we see and experience in Hollywood. We kind of translate that into our own lives. Yet the question is that so many people ask is, what messaging are they really broadcasting? If we take a quick look at the Hollywood entertainment industry, are their messages and morals really worthy of us looking up to? Have we become better people? Are we a happier society? Are we empowered? Is the world a better place? And this question segues into this episode because we as Jews, we have an alternate type of entertainment. We have our own music. We have our own shows and entertainment. Now, I'm not saying that Jews don't watch Hollywood movies. Of course we do. But we do have other options of how to be entertained. And the question is, what is our alternative? So, Abie, I have my thoughts on how Jewish music specifically differs from what is produced in Hollywood. But I'd like to hear your perspective. How would you describe the difference?
Well, there are a lot of points covered in your opening monologue. I certainly agree with you that we look at Hollywood today, and actually since its inception, as obviously entertainment. Entertainment differs a lot from education. It differs from the words inspiration. Entertainment can be meaningful. It can be necessary. It can be helpful to a person. A person can't always be 100% fuel injected, highest burning rate. The mind needs to relax. It needs to shut off. Sleep is an expression of that. God puts sleep into a person's human nature because he recharges, he re-energizes. True. And even waking hours, sometimes a person needs to relax, to get away, for the mind to sort of shut down and and go on, be idle and not focusing and working at full power. But of course, you can entertain in a positive way, in a kosher way, in a way that helps a person and certainly doesn't degrade a person. And you can entertain in a way that destroys a person's soul, destroys a person's character. I think Hollywood very, very much would like to see its audience degraded spiritually to some extent, because it makes them more needy of them. Hollywood becomes a necessity to those people, because if a person lives a life, let's say, without intellectual study and without intellectual pursuits, they need more entertainment. They're bored. They're floating around society without much to do, without any place to go, and they need more Hollywood. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy for them to promote a life that is devoid of intellectuality and spirituality and meaning, and that's one of the reasons they do it. Maybe they don't even do it consciously. They probably do, but certainly subconsciously they're helping themselves and promoting their product by degrading the morality of society.
So it's interesting. It sounds like by creating that void in society and demoralizing them, society wants to come back for more of that emptiness. And as you know, every song has messages, whether we're just sitting back and just relaxing, like you said, everyone needs to just kick their shoes off and just have a no-brainer moment. But like you said as well, every song has a message, whether it's inspirational or not, it's sharing something in a form of a song, let's say. And Jewish songs have messages too. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really listen that much to Hollywood songs because they don't touch my heartstrings. And I guess I'm the kind of person who wants to be touched by my heartstrings. And yes, sometimes we just turn on a song and we're not thinking too much into it. But sometimes it's the lyrics, sometimes it's the arrangement of the music, and me being musical, I do connect to it. But sometimes I do listen to some songs because I hear it's the latest song out there, it's the latest hit. And I'm thinking to myself, well, what message am I going to be inspired by today? And I listen to it, and like you said, I hear void. I hear something which is not inspirational. It doesn't move me. It doesn't inspire me. And then I compare that to Jewish songs, or particularly songs which you have written, which you have sung, which you've produced over the years, which are rich with Jewish content, words of hope, words depicting our history, words from the Torah, words that carried us Jews through history, through everything that we've gone through until now. How do you see your role as a musician, as a singer, someone who writes music? How do you see yourself in terms of relaying that inspiration to others? Is there is it an inspirational moment? Is there an agenda in mind?
So I started off in my early career. I was in education. I taught in a Jewish high school out in California, and I think my roots. Even before that, even before I did that, I was a musician. I could play guitar, play piano. I composed melodies and tunes. I produced some albums. Mm-hmm. Those albums were songs where we took verses from either the Torah or from the liturgy, mm-hmm. and we put songs to them. Those are called nigunim. It's a niggin. Somebody would sing that song in shul for davening, or yes. They would sing it at a kumzitz, gathered around the campfire, or at the last meal on Shabbat, where people like to sing before the Shabbat goes away. So those songs were appropriate for that. But as an educator in California, I started to realize that we have to start writing songs in English, where everybody, no matter what their affiliation is, could right away listen to the song, think about the theme, the concept, have a thought-provoking discussion after the song to talk about the message.
Yes.
So I started writing songs in English. And again, my background was education, so my thoughts at that time were educational or inspirational. Part of being a teacher, high school boys and girls, is to inspire them, and I taught Hebrew subjects and Torah mm-hmm. subjects. That was my goal.
Interesting.
So that was my goal in the music as well, was to take an idea. A song can sometimes, a short 3-minute, 4-minute song can convey a concept, an idea in a much more powerful and meaningful way than a speech. You forget the speech.
Absolutely.
The song, hopefully, you listen to over and over again because yes. the music is nice and the arrangement is nice, and hopefully the vocalist is good.
Correct.
And that combination, it could start to percolate in somebody's mind and somebody's head. And a song like "It's Time to Say Good Shabbos," easy to sing, easy to remember. The sun starts to go down on Friday evening and Friday afternoon, and it comes into your mind, and that's an effective way of making a meaningful impact on a person. So because my background was in education, I think mm-hmm. that was my focus, to educate and to teach and inspire with my music.
Interesting. I did not know that. I learned something new today, that your background is
Yes.
education.
By the
And
time I moved to Toronto, I was after moving to Toronto, I got into a family business. But I consider myself to this day to be an educator, and I've continued to do so, but not in the classroom, but with my music.
absolutely. Now, you touched on an interesting point. You said that when a person hears a song, they'll probably remember it faster than a speech. And I guess there's an element as a musician, as a songwriter, that there must be an element of the unknown where you don't know how far reaching your song will be. Have you gotten feedback over the years of how impactful any of your songs has been to someone's life?
Yeah, I have. I have letters back in the olden days when people used to write a letter and put it in a
Right?
mailbox.
What's that?
So yeah, what's that today? I have some of those from years past. I've been doing this for so long. I started with the first Journeys album in 1984 or 1985. So that's 15 and almost 40 years ago. So I have many letters and more recently emails and that kind of thing and publications that have people write in letters to magazines and things like that. There have also been submissions from people who have been affected and impacted. But again, I don't do it because I need specific feedback from people. I know I'm trying to affect myself as well when I write a song, and I write it a certain way, I produce it a certain way, and if people enjoy it, God bless. And if not, I
Absolutely.
know that I enjoy it. Thank God, over the years, I've always had another profession. I've never had to go into the studio, record a song, and produce an album to put bread on the table for myself and my family. I've always had an alternative source of income, and music has been really a wonderful hobby, an avocation for me that's been great. So I really can do it my way and worry about, I don't have to come out with it if I don't feel it's ready. I was able to do that and wait and be very patient with my music. And I think that's helped.
Absolutely. One song of yours, I'm pretty sure it's yours, Achenu. That's like
Yes,
many years ago. I think
many
of that as I feel like I've heard that song in so many different settings. Like you mentioned before, Kumsitz, a Shabbat table. I believe I heard it after, there was a funeral in Israel where Israeli soldiers were burying one of their own after some kind of terrorist explosion. Being sang at the Kosel where thousands of people are gathered together. A song like that where it's just anchored in Judaism and being able to express within our Judaism by Jewish people of all walks of life. I think that's
to me,
just...
it's incredible to me. A song like Achenu, I feel like it was a little gift given to me by God. He sent down, that tune to my head, and it's interesting. I say that even a song needs mazal, needs luck.
Absolutely.
So that song came out. The album that had that song on it came out, I think, a day or two after the Gulf War. So we were sitting at home worrying about our brothers and sisters in Eretz Israel who were facing the Scud missiles from Saddam Hussein. And that song came out, and it was to those particular words: wherever our brothers are, whenever they are in danger or in trouble or suffering, to pray that God should protect them. So that song came out right then, and right away it became very well known. But more recently, a few years ago, there was a terrible incident where some boys were missing, and it was feared that they were taken by terrorists, and that's what proved to have been. But 10,000 people at the Kotel singing Achenu is a very, very powerful moment, and one that moved me greatly. So I feel very fortunate that I was able to compose that.
Amazing. That must have been a moment of humility for you, that you were the vessel to bring that message to so many people, that message of hope, and continues to bring that message. And I want to share a personal story, which I always wanted to write you a letter, but I just never did. Okay. My oldest actually just turned 16 this week. And when I was birthing my 3 children, I like to have a playlist of music. And one of my favorite songs, actually my favorite song of yours, is Little Neshamala. And as I was in labor with my children, part of that playlist was Little Neshamala. And I chose that song because I chose natural birth, and I chose to embrace the moment and the task of a mother bringing a neshama into the world. And I wanted to relate to that moment for what it was. And it was powerful 3 times over. Each birth, each labor, 3 times over, that song brought my children into this world. So I wanted to thank you. And then there's the second half to that story. In 2016, it was Erev Yom Kippur, and I was experiencing a lot of pain for a couple of weeks. Finally, it got so excruciatingly bad, I decided I have to go to the hospital to just check it out. So I left my 3 kids, very young at the time, at home with my grandmother, and I said, I just have to go to the ER. I just have to check it out. I'm sure it's going to be okay. My husband happened to be out of town at that time. And I'm thinking, I'm strong, I can do this, just go myself, get it tested. They basically find out that I'm experiencing an ectopic pregnancy. They find out that the fetus is alive. There is a beating heartbeat. The fetus is about 8 to 10 weeks, and I didn't know it beforehand. I wasn't expecting it. I didn't know it. And anyone who wants to hear the full story, I'm not going to go into the full details, but I do have a full episode number 3. I'll add the details in the show notes, and you can listen to the full details over there. But for the purpose of this story, at that moment when I got that news that I was expecting and knowing that I couldn't keep the fetus, it was a moment where I, as a mother, connected to this neshama, knowing that it had a very short-lived time on this earth. And after figuring out the details of, oh my gosh, I got to get my kids to a place for Yom Kippur. My husband's not here to support me. I got to call him and let him know what's going on. Obviously, the emotion, the tears, whatever I was going through. After all that was over, I had a couple of hours just to wait. It was Erev Yom Kippur. I just had to wait in the hospital, wait for my turn for surgery, sitting there in pain, nothing to do. And I decided to go within. I put my hand on where my ectopic pregnancy was happening, where the pain was, and I just connected with my neshama. And what song did I sing? I sang, "Come with me, little neshamala, to a place above the land." And I knew at that moment that it was my task to accompany it for its task that Hashem had destined for it. After surgery, when I was kind of zoning in and out and you're waking up from surgery, the first question I asked the nurse was, "Where's my baby?" And she said, "The baby's upstairs." So obviously she was talking about a floor in the hospital, but she answered my question. She told me that my baby had reunited with Hashem, had come back to Hashem's throne, and it just tied into the lyrics. And beyond words, it's just the feeling that everything was meant to be, and it was just expressed through your song. And now I just feel so grateful that I can thank you in person, however personable this is, but in person.
Well, the biggest thanks is that you felt the song gave you comfort and helped give you a direction, where to place your thoughts. And that's the biggest thanks is that, you used it and it gave you strength.
Yes,
absolutely. Thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure. So it's not going to be on a paper in your mailbox, but like I said, I'm grateful that I'm able to relate that to you. Before we end off, is there any other message, anything, if you were able to send a message to my listeners that you'd like to express now?
Well, it's just fascinating. I mean, the title of your podcast is what again? What do you call it?
Sparked by Hollywood.
Sparked, SPARKED, Sparked by Hollywood.
Correct.
So, I mean, I've given some thought to that idea, the idea of Hollywood itself and what it means. I mean, it's society in general today. It's just amazing. A person, a human being, not necessarily Jewish, any human being is a small piece of heaven. Every human being has a spark of the divine, and that's what the neshama is. We talked about neshama. Neshama means the soul. Every human being has a soul, and that soul needs to be fed. It needs to be nourished. And whether you're Jewish or Gentile or religious or irreligious, it doesn't really matter. The person, every soul needs to be nourished. And like we said before, Hollywood tries to take away the importance of that nourishment because it fuels its own success.
Correct.
Because if a person is sitting in the Beit Midrash studying, he's not watching a Hollywood movie. Or if he's out doing acts of kindness and helping running a church drive for the community, he's not watching a movie. He's doing good things. He's helping out his neighbor. If you want to push your own agenda, you make sure people stay away from religion. And even the environmentalism of today, it's become like a religion. Why? Because people need things to do that they feel are of value and of meaning and are helping society. They want to help their children and their grandchildren and the world in general. So this has become sort of like a pseudo-religion in place of religion, right? So at the same time, if you promote the absence of God and the absence of a meaningful life after we pass on from this world, and they totally want to negate any belief in an afterlife. They want to negate any belief that the soul is eternal, and that there is a judgment, that there is a God who is going to judge a person for their acts in this world. They totally negate that in everything they promote. When they have movies that talk about people coming back from the dead, they ask, what did you see? And they say nothing, when there's nothing there, right? I mean, that's right. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
And they don't even want you to even think of the possibility. I don't remember. A guy comes back from the dead. He goes, I don't remember. That would be nice. At least, be agnostic, play both sides of the coin. They don't want that. They want to portray that, no, there's nothing there. Because, so use your time entertaining yourself, having a good time, make sure that life is as meaningless as possible. And that is so sad. So whatever you can do with your podcast to get people to realize that, no, this is not the way we should be living our lives. We should be thinking of the future, doing things on this world that are going to help our eternal soul, because the soul is eternal. But we don't know where it comes from. We've never seen it. It's never been viewed under a microscope. It's not something that anybody could quantify or touch or feel or see. It's an absolute piece of God, piece of heaven, and that needs to be fed and nurtured. And if you can get people to do more of that, your podcast is very meaningful, very important.
Thank you. I'm on for the task. Thank you.
Okay, good for you.
So before we end off, Abie, can you share with my listeners where they could find you, connect with you, where they could find your music? I mean, I know for me, I would just dust off some old tapes from like 30 plus years, but not everyone has tapes. How can they find you?
I just have to Google my name, Abie and Rotenberg. I have all my songs are streamable, the Journeys albums, the Hebrew songs. I have a series of children's albums teaching kids to have good manners and proper behavior with a Torah-based approach. And like I said, I've been doing this a long time, and there's probably something for everybody between all of the different selections that I've done over the years. And hopefully people your listeners will look up my name and, listen to some samples and see if they like any of the material. And if they do, I hope it inspires.
Fantastic. And like I say, you may have been doing this for a long time, but your music is timeless. And I'd like to thank you, Abie, for joining the Sparked by Hollywood podcast. Thank you for your insight. Thank you for your inspiration. And thank you for the gift that you have given the world of Jewish music.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All the best of all. Take care.
All the best. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you are loving the Spark by Hollywood podcast, I'd appreciate if you can leave me a 5-star review on any platform that you are listening on. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcast, or Audible. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at Spark by Hollywood. That's where the conversations continue and where I give you extra content on all my episodes. And finally, I'd love to hear from you. Send me your feedback, your comments, your questions, and your aha moments to info@sparkbyhollywood.com. And remember, in a world where we are all enamored by the spark of Hollywood and its celebrities, always remember your own unique spark that you carry within you that makes you a gift that the world needs to shine that much brighter. I'll catch you in the next episode.